Hey guys, back from a short hiatus for an AECVC with a big bang. The AEC Tech Internet Index, the world's biggest and most ambitious web traffic analysis for AEC Tech ventures at scale. Tune in and I'll walk you through the first edition. You can always find the index at fundamental.com/internet index, and it is published every month. Hey guys, glad to be back at it with AECVC. I've been taking a short hiatus for 2 weeks, but for a good reason. I've been super busy by publishing the AEC Tech Internet Index. And today I'm going to walk you through what that actually is about. So the AEC Tech Internet Index is a thesis that we have been carrying with us and mulling over for a while. It was informed from several different directions. But one of the most important ones was what we published earlier this year, where we compared the strong signals versus the poor signals. And if you remember from that episode, the poor signals are those that are widely publicized. Unfortunately, venture as a whole, not just in AEC technology, is quite prone to hyping stuff up. And it is because of that we publicize fundraisings and huge funding amounts. We do a lot of press, PR. We make big fuss about growing teams, but these are all very poor signals in the world of venture as a whole, including AEC Tech, to actually make sense of, is there customer adoption? How is the trend in terms of adoption? What kinds of companies actually have substance behind it? And so unfortunately, the strong signals, the ones that could actually tell us all of that, are oftentimes hidden from the public eye. You need a trigger and a reason to access those. It could be because you're in fundraising conversations with a firm, investment conversations. It could be because potentially you could be one of the absolute key hires, and that gives you the right to ask for these. But at scale, publicly, for these private tech companies in AEC, they are not available. And so that makes it quite murky and muddies the waters of, hey, how can we actually judge where the overall macro market of AEC technology is trending and where adoption potentially occurs? Now, you can do that on an anecdotal scale, of course, by doing a lot of customer interviews, a lot of supplier interviews, but that would still be anecdotal. And so that's been the thesis for the AEC Tech Internet Index, is that because we have a lot of poor signals that are public, we want to avoid using them too much. And by the way, they are the reason why there are so many shitty, really, really shitty best of lists by pundits are out there, or market maps are out there, because literally all they can use is these poor signals, and then they claim they curate these firms by calling it a best of list, while the useful signals are oftentimes hidden, opaque, and not available at scale. Web traffic, however, is available to us. We can use it. It is fairly accurate if we use SEMrush data, and it makes a non-arbitrary proxy of adoption trends when we use it at scale. At scale means, in this context, I would not recommend anyone use web traffic analyses on the entire population of AEC Tech companies, including early firms that have not reached a certain scale, because there it will not be accurate. It will be relatively skewed. But on those companies that actually do have a right to call themselves to be somewhat at scale, based on how long they've been in the market, how much product they have built, how much money they have used to invest in their distribution channels, at that level of scale, we can actually use web traffic as a really, really interesting proxy to judge the adoption trends. And beyond that, that is something I want to build into the AEC Tech Internet Index over time with the feedback that we're getting. Also, it might be an indicator of compounding brand power of certain companies in AEC Tech. You can access it always at fundamental.com/internet index. That is a perma URL. That's where you will always find the monthly edition of the AEC Tech Internet Index. And I will use AECVC with the first time with this episode to walk you through some of the last month's interesting findings. Now, what we track with the AEC Tech Internet Index is we're currently looking at the risers of the month, which companies made the biggest splash in the last month and over the last 6 months, and which ones made the biggest splash consistently over the last 12 months. It's relatively more easy to make 1-2 months of splash based on fundraising announcements, big product announcements, big partnership announcements, but who can actually do it consistently is an interesting question. We look at category trends, we look at certain venture trends, and we look at the Mindshare currently. In the future, I want to add the brand power to the content that we cover. And we have identified across the companies that are in scope, currently several, I think 120 we have currently in scope that fit the criteria, which we have laid out at fundamental.com/internet index. Digital GCs, financial services, marketplaces, outcome as a service, clean technology, robotics, and autonomous hardware. And then on the SaaS side, we have further subdivided 5 different categories. The current risers, let's talk about them. So today is September. I look at the data from August and before. In the last month, the workflow related softwares actually won the month and the last 6 months. So you see here HammerTech, Rumbix, Assignar, Field. All of them are actually companies that have workflow related aspects, and they grew almost between 5x, 4x to 10x over the last 6 months. Adaptive won the race here with a 16x over the last six months, which is partly due to the SMB software category seeing more and more inbound, which is where Adaptive plays, but also a big funding announcement. So that does help here in this statistic. You see in the background here also the standard deviation as a measure of the consistency of growth month over month. You see on the right-hand side here in the 10th place, Enter, almost 2.3x over the last 6 months in terms of web traffic, but highly consistently. Now, who also consistently won over the last 12 months are actually project management softwares. And the winner among all on the left-hand side is a Japanese company I want the entire Western world to look at. It's AntPat. And AntPat can be thought of as a mix between Procore or perhaps PlanGrid of Japan. It is a company that has been consistently growing 7 to 8% month over month in web traffic with incredible standard deviation, no variability, high consistency, open space. The same case in the West. Shout out to Jivan. I think what they are doing over there in terms of the brand awareness, the marketing, the distribution game, the track record clearly that they are building has been nothing short of remarkable. Almost the same numbers as AntPat. So they are claiming the spots of number 1 and number 2. But then if you look at the wider set of companies here, you will see a lot of project management, and you will see also a good amount of SMB type software that claims the most consistent and highest growth over the last 12 months. So those were the risers. Let's talk about the category trends. So what you see here is the mapping of the categories. The companies contained in each category make up a category. And basically in terms of the traffic in the last month and its compound monthly growth rate over the last 12 months, right? So if I have a great last month, I would be to the right of this chart. But if I have a consistent CMGR over the last 12 months, I would be at the top of the chart. As you can see, interestingly, nobody really achieves to be top and right. So it's very, very tough to have a high CMGR and kill it last month. No category was achieving that. But 2 or 3 ones that I found very interesting here to follow in terms of adoption. One is outcome as a service. We're talking a lot about that over here in Fundamental. That could be energetic renovation, that can be roofing OAS like Ergion that are included in here. And so they are growing the fastest of all categories, which is something that we have been saying for a while, for a long, long time. And we have been ridiculed by people for actually saying that, but it is what customers actually buy. It is something that they love. You also see that the small business software as a service in the AEC Tech has been growing very quickly and to an insane scale. It is the second largest scaled category among the sample set here, with 3.5 million web visits in the last month. And it's still growing at a relatively healthy rate. Now, interesting that marketplaces over the summer have been seeing lower web traffic. So that's the third observation I wanted to make. And then you see a few categories that are at almost no scale currently with the sample set that we use. One of them being robotics, another one being financial services. So that's an interesting observation too. If we dive deep into one category that I found interesting, so as build and inspection software for enterprise and mid-market, you can see that OpenSpace is completely dominating that category in terms of web traffic, but a few ones are growing fast. Bildot's direct competitor to OpenSpace, in my opinion. SiteAware growing very fast over the last 12 months with 30% month over month in web traffic. But overall, and OnSite IQ, I think, is a company that needs to be very closely monitored here. But OpenSpace is literally an order of magnitude in terms of total web traffic ahead of everyone in that category. Secondly, workflow-related software. So we love always to keep our eyes peeled on the US, but actually in this case, it would be wrong not to look outside of the US. So check AntPad, insane scale as a Japanese market leader, PlanRadar, European market leader, also doing something very well apparently in terms of the scale and the CMGR. And then Field, a Swedish company, if I remember correctly, that is growing above 30% month over month over the last 12 months. So watch AntPad, PlanRadar, and Field in terms of project and workflow management. Now, another thing that I find a little bit sad, but as expected, is also that robotics clearly is not mainstream yet. So we haven't reached any substantial scale in terms of web traffic for robotics, even not for a company as long in the market as Build Robotics, raised as much capital, if I remember correctly, beyond $100 million. Build Robotics is at a web traffic, according to SEMrush, in and around 2,000, 2,500 in the latest month. And so the category of robotics clearly hasn't reached mainstream yet. What we also see is that if you look here at the digital general contractor models, both for new construction, multifamily, single-family ADU, as well as for renovation digital GCs, you can see that there's several companies that are actually recovering quite well from web traffic. And that is noteworthy because the category has been hammered with insolvencies over the last 12 months. Just think of Vive, think of Modulus, think of Nexi, unfortunately. Katerra was the first one that had raised a lot of the publicized companies in this space. So it has been hammered, but actually when you look at the web traffic, it is rebounding clearly over the last 6 months. You see it in Mighty Buildings, you see it in Samara, in Bosscat, EcoWorks, even in Icon, which is a different type of methodology with concrete printing. Watch my episode on concrete printing, what my opinion and questions there are. So overall, I see like over the last 6 months, actually a rebound interest potentially in the category. That's positive. And here in outcome as a service, as I mentioned, driven by energetic renovation, enter in our portfolio, Sealed in the US, and then Ergion for the roofing side, actually growing very, very quickly over the last 6 and 12 months. Quickly on the Mindshare highlights. So Mindshare is about, hey, within a category, who actually has the highest amount of attention and in terms of the web traffic. And so again, in SaaS, what I've been saying about OpenSpace, you can clearly see it in terms of the share. OpenSpace is completely dominating that category with 2/3 of the web traffic in the sample set that we have here. In terms of enterprise software for workflow and resource management, it is AntPad. So keep an eye on AntPad and then PlanRadar, as well as FieldWire since the Hilti acquisition. I would say if Hilti's, and I have no proprietary insight here, but if Hilti's thesis was that they can help distribute FieldWire, maybe this is an indicator that actually that type of distribution synergy is kind of working out. Just final notes here in terms of the methodology. So the scope of the sample set of the 125 companies or so that we currently have in is you need to have raised more than 25 million in equity, founded 2010 and later, and not dead or exited before 2019, just to make it a relevant set of companies that have a certain claim at scale and a certain claim of currency and being current in the market, right? The sources is SEMrush. SEMrush is widely regarded as an accurate source. Keep in mind, no web traffic analysis is perfectly accurate, not even your own instance of Google Analytics on your own website. SEMrush is regarded as an accurate source, and that's what we're using unaltered. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure that you subscribe under aecvc.com, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. See you next time.